It started with a flicker of light from a tablet in a dark room, a single, seemingly innocent notification that would ignite the slow-burning funeral pyre of my 20-year marriage. My wife, the woman I'd built a life with, the mother of my children, was living a secret existence on a dating app designed for people like her, married, bored, and looking for an escape. My first instinct was a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated rage that threatened to drown me. But as the initial shock subsided, a colder, more calculating thought surfaced. If she wanted to play a game, I would learn the rules and beat her at it. I would become the man she was looking for, lure her in, and then tear her carefully constructed fantasy world apart, piece by piece. You think you know how this ends, think again. What I uncovered next didn't just change our lives, it redefined the very meaning of love, betrayal, and revenge. Before diving in, hit that subscribe button and comment below. Have you ever dealt with betrayal? Let's hear your stories. Part 1, The First Crack in the Mirror. Marriage after 2 decades isn't a roaring bonfire, it's a bed of warm coals. That's what I used to tell myself anyway. It was a comforting, mature way of saying things had become predictable. I'm Mark, 48, and for 21 years, Sarah had been the center of my universe. We had the whole suburban American dream starter pack, a mortgaged colonial in a decent school district, 2 kids, one in college, one a senior in high school, and a shared history that felt as solid and immovable as the oak tree in our front yard. I sold enterprise software. It was a soul-crushingly boring job that paid the bills, funded the family vacations to Disney, and financed Sarah's ever-evolving list of hobbies. First, it was pottery, leaving a fine layer of clay dust on the basement floor. Then came hot yoga, which filled the laundry hamper with suspiciously expensive athletic wear. Her latest venture was a boutique gym called Elevate, a place that seemed to offer more artisanal coffee and networking opportunities than actual fitness. I didn't mind. I worked hard so she could have the freedom to find herself again and again. My sacrifice was my purpose, a noble, if slightly naive, sentiment in hindsight. The cracks started small, hairline fractures in the portrait of our perfect life. Her phone, once a communal device left on the kitchen counter, became an extension of her hand, guarded with the ferocity of a dragon protecting its hoard. It was always angled away from me, and the screen would go dark the moment I walked into a room. When I'd ask who she was texting so furiously, she'd wave a dismissive hand. "Just Brenda from the gym," she'd say, her smile just a little too bright. "She's having another drama with her contractor." Then there were the nights out. Girls' night became a weekly ritual. She'd come home late, flushed and smelling of a perfume I didn't recognize, something musky and exotic, a far cry from the light floral scent she'd worn for years. I'd be feigning sleep, listening to her tiptoe into the bedroom, the scent of wine and secrets clinging to her clothes. I'd try to bring it up gently, a joke here and there. "You and Brenda are getting pretty serious," I'd say over breakfast. "Should I be worried?" "Oh, don't be ridiculous, Mark," she'd laugh, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. A woman needs her friends. I chalked it up to a midlife crisis. The kids were almost grown, and she was staring down the barrel of an empty nest. Maybe she felt invisible. I tried to be a better husband. I planned date nights, bought her flowers for no reason, and complimented her new, form-fitting gym outfits. The gestures were accepted, but with a detached politeness, like a CEO acknowledging a suggestion from an intern. The emotional chasm between us was widening, and I was the only one trying to build a bridge, while she, it seemed, was on the other side, happily digging the trench deeper. The irony, the part that grinds my gears even now, is that I was content. I loved our quiet evenings, the comfortable silence, the shared history that didn't require constant validation. I thought we were a team, weathered and battle-scarred, but a team nonetheless. I was a fool. I was admiring the steadfast loyalty of the coals while she was out searching for a match to start a new fire. Part 2, The Digital Ghost. The discovery wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was quiet, sterile, and happened at 1:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I couldn't sleep, a recurring issue fueled by stress from a looming quarterly review. I went downstairs for a glass of water and saw the family iPad lying on the couch, its screen dimly lit. Sarah must have been using it before bed. I picked it up intending to plug it in when a banner notification slid down from the top of the screen. It wasn't from Facebook or Instagram. The icon was a stylized gold key on a deep purple background. The app's name was Elysian Fields. Beneath it, a line of text that made the air in my lungs turn to ice. Serafina, you have a new message from Alex. Serafina, my mind raced. We didn't know anyone named Serafina. I tapped the notification. My thumbprint, still registered on the device, unlocked it and the app opened. My world tilted on its axis. Elysian Fields wasn't a game or a social network. It was a dating app, but its branding was slick, exclusive, and discreet. The tagline on the loading screen said it all: "Life is short, find your moment." It was Ashley Madison with a classier font. A digital speakeasy for the married and discontented, and there she was. The profile picture wasn't one I'd ever seen. It was professional, seductive. Serafina was perched on a bar stool, wearing a black dress that I recognized from the back of her closet, a dress she'd claimed she bought for a future work gala. She was laughing, head tilted back, a glass of red wine in her hand. She looked vibrant, alive, and like a complete stranger. My heart was a drum beating against my ribs as I read her bio. Each word was a deliberate, calculated stab at me, at our life together. Serafina, 45. Married but spiritually single, trapped in a life of comfortable monotony. Seeking a connection with a man who understands that passion shouldn't have an expiration date. Looking for stimulating conversation, spontaneous adventures, and a reminder of what it feels like to be truly seen. My husband is a good man, but he stopped seeing me years ago. Discretion is a must. A good man. The words hung there, a pathetic, conciliatory pat on the head. She wasn't just cheating. She was curating a narrative, painting me as a clueless, passionless warden in the prison of her suburban life. I felt a wave of nausea so intense I had to grip the edge of the counter. I scrolled through her messages, my hands shaking. There were dozens of them, conversations with men named Alex, Marco, and JP. They flirted, they exchanged veiled compliments, they made plans. The message from Alex was open on the screen. "I can't stop thinking about our conversation last night, Serafina. You have a fire in you. When can I see you again?" Her reply, sent just 3 hours earlier, while I was sleeping in our bed, was a single, devastating sentence: "Soon." I'm growing bolder every day. I sank to the floor, the cold tile a stark contrast to the fire raging through my veins. It wasn't just the betrayal of her body, it was the betrayal of our history. She had rewritten 20 years of shared memories, recasting me as the villain in her story of self-discovery. The coals of our marriage weren't just warm, they were dead, and she had been dancing on their ashes for God knows how long. In that moment, sitting in the dark of my own kitchen, a new feeling began to bloom amidst the wreckage of my heart, a cold, methodical rage. She wanted a man who would see her. Oh, I would see her, all right. I would see every last corner of her secret life, and then I would burn it to the ground. Part 3, the echo chamber of a broken heart. The next few days were a waking nightmare. I moved through my life like a ghost, a silent observer in a world that had suddenly lost all its color. Every interaction with Sarah was an exercise in supreme self-control. When she kissed me goodbye in the morning, her lips felt like a stranger's. Her "I love you" was a hollow echo in the cavern where my trust used to be. I would smile, kiss her back, and feel the acid of her hypocrisy churn in my stomach. I became a detective in my own home. I was haunted by the ghost of Serafina. I saw her everywhere. I saw her in the way Sarah now dressed, favoring tighter jeans and lower-cut tops. I saw her in the gym bag that was always packed and ready by the door. I saw her in the second, secret credit card statement I found tucked away in her car's glove compartment. A card used to pay for hotel rooms described as business expenses and dinners at restaurants we'd never been to together. Sleep offered no escape. My dreams were a feverish reel of her profile picture, her bio, her messages with strangers. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, the image of her laughing with some faceless man burned into the back of my eyelids. I'd look over at her sleeping form, her face serene and innocent in the moonlight, and a war would rage within me. One part of me wanted to shake her awake, to scream and demand answers, to watch her perfect facade crumble. But another, more insidious part of me was calculating. An immediate confrontation would give her control. She would cry, she would apologize, she would gaslight me. She would make it about my snooping, my lack of trust. She would twist her narrative of being the unseen wife into a justification for her actions. No, that wouldn't do. An explosion would be satisfying for a moment, but the fallout would be messy, unpredictable. I didn't want a messy war, I wanted a clean, decisive execution. I started to think about the man she was looking for. Alex, Marco, JP, this man was attentive, exciting, spontaneous. He wasn't bogged down by mortgage payments and parent-teacher conferences. He was an escape. An idea, cold and sharp as a shard of glass, began to form in my mind. What if I became that man? What if I could give her exactly what she wanted, using her own secret world as the stage? The thought was both repulsive and intoxicating. To wear a mask, to lie to her as she had lied to me, it felt like stooping to her level. But it also felt like the only way to reclaim any sense of power in a situation where I had been rendered utterly powerless. It wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about understanding. I wanted to hear it from her own lips, or rather, her own fingertips. I wanted to know the truth she would tell a stranger, the unvarnished version she would never give to me. I wanted her to betray me to my face without even knowing it. The plan was terrifying, but it was also the only thing that made me feel alive again. The heartbreak was still there, a constant, dull ache in my chest, but now it had a companion, a dark, thrilling sense of purpose. Part 4, The Masquerade begins. Creating a profile on Elysian Fields felt like forging my own death certificate. The app's interface was a symphony of purples and golds, designed to feel like a secret society. The sign-up process was invasive, asking for profession, income bracket, and marital status, all under the guise of ensuring quality connections. I felt dirty just being there. I needed an alias. Mark was too close to home. I settled on Cal, short for Calvin. It sounded solid, dependable, yet a little mysterious. For a profile picture, I dug up a photo from a work trip to San Francisco 2 years ago. In it, I was standing on a balcony overlooking the bay, wearing a suit, looking off into the distance. It was a good photo. I looked confident, successful, and most importantly, I looked like I had a life that didn't revolve around little league games and lawn maintenance. The bio was the critical part. I had to become the antidote to myself. I reread Serafina's profile a dozen times, dissecting every word. She felt unseen. Cal would see her. She wanted passion. Cal was an inferno. She craved spontaneity. Cal lived for it. I wrote Cal 50, entrepreneur, married to my work for too long and forgot how to live, looking for a partner in crime to rediscover the city's hidden gems and the thrill of a real conversation. I appreciate intelligence, a quick wit, and a woman who isn't afraid to say what she wants. Let's trade stories, not just pleasantries. Discretion and mutual respect are paramount. It was a masterpiece of calculated bullshit. Every line was a hook tailor-made for the bait she had laid out. I hit submit, and my profile went live. The feeling was a bizarre cocktail of self-loathing and adrenaline. I was now officially a player in the same sick game she was. For the next 2 days, I navigated the app's digital landscape. It was a gallery of suburban desperation. I saw women I recognized from the grocery store, men who coached my son's soccer team. They were all there, hiding behind aliases and carefully curated photos, all whispering the same digital lies. The thought that this secret world was humming along just beneath the surface of our quiet town was profoundly unsettling. I resisted the urge to search for Serafina immediately. That would be too eager, too suspicious. I had to let the algorithm do its work. I swiped on a few other profiles to build a history, making my Cal persona seem like a genuine user. Then, on the third night, she appeared in my feed. Serafina, 45. You may know each other, the app suggested with a sickening sense of irony. My finger hovered over her picture. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The point of no return. I swiped right. A moment later, the screen flashed. It's a connection. You and Serafina have liked each other. The game was on. Part 5, Casting the Line. My phone buzzed with a notification from Elysian Fields. Serafina has sent you a message. I took a deep breath, my hands slick with sweat, and opened it. Serafina, an entrepreneur who forgot how to live. I think I can relate. Your profile is intriguing, Cal. I had to get the tone just right. Confident but not arrogant, interested but not desperate. I was playing a character and the stage was a text box. Cal, intriguing is a good start. I was beginning to think everyone on here was just looking for a cheap thrill. Your profile suggests you're after something more. The lie tasted like bile in my mouth. A cheap thrill was exactly what she was after. But Cal, the smooth-talking entrepreneur, wouldn't see it that way. Serafina, something more is exactly right. My life is comfortable, predictable. I just feel like there's a part of me that's gone dormant, the adventurous part. We texted for hours. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch a basketball game, while Sarah was in the kitchen, humming along to the radio and making a grocery list. The duality of the moment was surreal. I was having an intimate, anonymous conversation with my own wife, who was no more than 15 feet away. She opened up to Cal in a way she hadn't opened up to me in years. She talked about her dreams of traveling to Tuscany, her frustration with feeling like she was just a mom and a wife, a support system for everyone else's ambitions. She complained about her husband, Serafina. He's a good man. He provides, but he doesn't get me. He's content with routine. He thinks a date night is going to the same Italian place we've been going to since the kids were born. The passion is just gone. Every word was a small, precise incision. I wanted to scream, to tell her that I suggested that new French bistro last month, and she said it was too stuffy. I wanted to remind her that I had planned a trip to Napa for our anniversary, but she had canceled because of a gym retreat. But I couldn't. Cal had to be understanding. Cal had to be her savior. Cal, I understand that completely. It's easy to lose yourself in the roles you play for other people. A man should never stop trying to discover new things about the woman he's with. It sounds like he's taken you for granted. Serafina, that's it exactly. You put it into words perfectly. It feels like you can see right through me. The irony was so thick it was suffocating. I felt a dark, perverse thrill. I was good at this. I knew exactly what buttons to push because I knew the person pushing them. I knew her insecurities, her desires, her vanities. I was using our entire shared history as a weapon against her. We planned to meet. She was hesitant at first, insisting on talking on the phone first. The thought of disguising my own voice was a logistical nightmare I hadn't prepared for. I deflected masterfully. Cal, honestly, I'd rather wait. A voice can create preconceived notions. I'd prefer our first meeting to be completely fresh, with no expectations. Let's meet for a drink somewhere dark and quiet. Tuesday night, Le Chiffre Lounge, 8 p.m. I chose the place deliberately. It was a new, trendy cocktail bar downtown, a place she had mentioned wanting to go to weeks ago. By suggesting it, I was reinforcing the idea that Cal was in sync with her desires. Serafina, Tuesday is perfect. I can't wait. She had no idea. She was planning a date with her anonymous digital lover, and I was planning the beginning of the end of our marriage. That night, when she came to bed, she rolled over and touched my arm. "Everything okay, honey?" she asked, her voice laced with fake concern. "You've been quiet all night." I looked at her, at the woman I thought I knew, and forced a smile. Just tired. Long day. I turned off the light, plunging the room into darkness. But for the first time in weeks, my mind was crystal clear. I knew exactly what I had to do. Part 6, The Confidant. The weight of my deception was becoming unbearable. I was living two lives, the oblivious, cuckolded husband and the suave, attentive online suitor. The constant toggling between personas was exhausting. I was a pressure cooker, and I knew I was going to explode if I didn't find a release valve. My first thought was to call my best friend Dave, but Dave was a bull in a china shop. His advice would be to slash her tires and hire the most ruthless divorce attorney in the state. I needed strategy, not scorched earth. Not yet anyway, so I did something I never thought I would do. I called Chloe, Sarah's younger sister. Chloe had always been the more grounded of the two. While Sarah chased hobbies and social status, Chloe had built a quiet life as a high school art teacher. She was sharp, empathetic, and most importantly, she had no illusions about her sister's flaws. We'd always had a good relationship, a bond forged over years of family holidays and shared eye rolls at Sarah's more dramatic moments. We met for coffee at a neutral location, a sterile Starbucks far from our respective neighborhoods. I didn't know how to start. I just slid my phone across the table, opened to the Elysian Fields app and the message thread between Cal and Serafina. Chloe read for a full 5 minutes, her expression hardening from confusion to disbelief, and finally to a quiet, simmering anger. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of pity and fury. "That bitch," she whispered, her voice tight. I knew something was off. The new clothes, the constant gym sessions. I just didn't want to believe it. Telling her was like lancing a wound. The story poured out of me, the discovery, the creation of Cal, the upcoming date. I expected her to be shocked by my deception, to tell me I was crazy. Instead, she just nodded slowly, a grim understanding on her face. "Mark, this is insane," she said, shaking her head. "But I get it, I honestly do. A part of me is horrified, but another part wants to see her walk into that bar and see you sitting there." She's been living in a fantasy world for years, treating people like they're characters in her own personal drama. She thinks she's the main character. Chloe provided a perspective I desperately needed. She told me about Sarah's growing dissatisfaction, her complaints that life hadn't turned out as glamorous as she had imagined. She felt she had settled. "She loves you, Mark," Chloe said, "but she's in love with the idea of what she could have. She's addicted to the validation." Her validation of my plan was the fuel I needed. She didn't just approve, she wanted to help. She became my co-conspirator, my confidant in this bizarre psychological drama. She was the one who pointed out the fatal flaw in my plan. "A private confrontation is what she expects," Chloe argued. "She'll cry, she'll twist it, and you'll end up being the bad guy for trapping her. You can't just expose her to yourself. You have to expose her to her world. You have to pull the curtain back in front of an audience." The idea was terrifyingly brilliant. A private victory would feel hollow. The lie had to be shattered in public, and together we began to refine the plan. It wouldn't be just a drink at a dark bar, it would be a performance. A grand finale, and Chloe, my unexpected ally, would help me set the stage. Part 7, The Gaslighter's Gambit. Armed with my digital conversations and Chloe's support, I began to subtly test Sarah, to poke at the walls of her carefully constructed double life. It was a cruel, psychological game, but I couldn't stop myself. I wanted to see how far she would go, how effortlessly she could lie to my face. One morning, while we were having coffee, I casually mentioned an article I'd read about a new exhibition at the city's Modern Art Museum. An artist Serafina had told Cal she adored. "You know," I said, pretending to scroll through my phone, "that artist you like, Kaylin, has a new installation downtown. We should go." Her reaction was a masterclass in dismissiveness. She didn't even look up from her yogurt. "Oh, I'm not really into her stuff anymore. It's a bit derivative, don't you think?" The exact opposite of what she'd told her digital confidant. She was actively curating different personalities for her different lives. The biggest test came a week before the planned confrontation. Our 21st wedding anniversary was approaching. It had always been a sacred date for us. 2 nights before, Serafina was messaging Cal, complaining about the impending occasion. "Serafina, my anniversary is this weekend, 21 years. I have to pretend to be happy and sentimental about a relationship that feels like a business merger. I wish I could spend it with you instead." The message was a gut punch, but Cal, ever the smooth operator, saw an opportunity. "Cal, then you should. Life's too short for obligatory celebrations. Ditch it. Let me take you somewhere amazing. That new French place, El Adel, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Say yes." I watched her from across the living room as she read the message on her phone. A slow, secretive smile spread across her face. My stomach twisted. "Serafina, I'd love that more than anything. I'll have to make up an excuse." "A last-minute work dinner. He'll buy it. He always does." The next morning, I launched my own offensive. I presented her with a small jewelry box containing a pair of diamond earrings. "Happy anniversary, sweetheart," I said, my voice thick with false emotion. "And I've booked us a table for Saturday night, a surprise. Just be ready at 7:30. She feigned delight, hugging me tightly. "Oh, Mark, they're beautiful, and a surprise. That's so thoughtful." Then came the lie, delivered with an Oscar-worthy performance of regret. "But, oh, this is awful. My boss just scheduled a mandatory dinner with the new regional VPs on Saturday. I tried to get out of it, but it's impossible. I feel terrible. Can we please celebrate on Sunday instead?" She stood there, draped in my anniversary gift, lying directly to my face about a work dinner, so she could go on a date with my own fake persona. The audacity of it was breathtaking. It was in that moment that any lingering shred of doubt about my plan vanished. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It It was about her profound, staggering disrespect for me and for the life we had built. The gaslighter's gambit had been played, and it had sealed her fate. She wasn't just going to be exposed, she was going to be humiliated. Part 8, setting the stage. The final days leading up to Saturday were a blur of meticulous planning and suppressed rage. Chloe and I operated like military strategists planning an invasion. The objective, total emotional annihilation. The theater of war, labyrinth. First, I officially booked the table. A reservation for 2, please, I said to the hostess on the phone. For Mark, it's our 21st wedding anniversary. I made sure to emphasize the occasion. I wanted the staff to be aware of the celebration. Next, Chloe played her part. She called her parents, feigning excitement. I have the most wonderful idea. Mark is taking Sarah to labyrinth for their anniversary on Saturday. Why don't we surprise them? We can get a separate table and send over a bottle of champagne. It'll be so romantic. Her parents, bless their innocent hearts, loved the idea. They were deeply fond of me and worried about Sarah's recent distance. They eagerly agreed. Chloe then looped in her own husband, who, after a brief, shocked rundown of the situation, was firmly on Team Mark. The audience was now assembled, 2 unsuspecting parents and 2 co-conspirators. On Saturday evening, the house was filled with a strange, electric tension. I put on my best suit, the one I had worn to our son's high school graduation. Sarah was in the other room getting ready for her work dinner. She emerged from the bedroom, and for a moment I almost lost my nerve. She was stunning. She wore the black dress from her Serafina profile, the one she'd bought for a date with a man who didn't exist. The diamond earrings I had given her dangled from her ears, catching the light. It was a grotesque tableau of our intertwined lies. You look incredible, I said, and the words were true, which made it all the more painful. Your VPs will be impressed. You look pretty handsome yourself, she said, giving me a quick, perfunctory kiss. Don't wait up for me. This thing will probably go late. She grabbed her purse and walked out the door, leaving the scent of her traitorous perfume in her wake. I waited 5 minutes, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Then I picked up my keys and followed. I drove to labyrinth, my mind a blank slate. The emotional turmoil of the past few weeks had receded, replaced by an eerie, profound calm. The trap was set, the bait had been taken. All that was left was to watch the steel jaws snap shut. Part 9, checkmate. Labyrinth was everything Sarah and Serafina would have wanted. Dim lighting, hushed conversations, the gentle clinking of crystal glasses. It was the perfect backdrop for an illicit romance. I gave my name to the maitre d', who led me to a secluded corner booth. Your wife will be joining you shortly, he asked with a polite smile. Yes, any minute now, I replied, my own smile feeling like a grimace. A few minutes later, Chloe and her husband arrived, followed shortly by Sarah's parents. They were seated at a table across the small dining room, partially obscured by a large floral arrangement, but with a clear line of sight to my booth. Chloe caught my eye and gave me a subtle, encouraging nod. The pieces were all in place. I ordered a glass of scotch and waited. Every minute felt like an hour. Then, at precisely 8:05 p.m., she walked in. She paused at the entrance, scanning the room, a nervous, excited energy radiating from her. She was looking for Cal, the handsome entrepreneur from the internet. She didn't even glance in my direction. Her eyes, filled with anticipation, swept right past me. It was the most profound invisibility I had ever felt. Her phone buzzed in her hand. I knew it was a message I had sent as Cal 5 minutes earlier, running a few minutes late. Grab a table near the back, I'll find you. She spoke to the maitre d', who, with a confused look, pointed her in my direction. Your husband is already here, madame. The look on her face as she turned and finally saw me is an image that will be seared into my memory forever. It was a slow-motion cascade of emotions. First, utter confusion, as her brain tried to reconcile the man from her life with the man from her fantasy. Then, a flicker of dawning comprehension. And finally, a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated horror as she realized the trap she had walked into. Her face went pale, her confident smile collapsing into a slack-jawed mask of shock. She walked toward the table like a prisoner on her way to the gallows. She sat down opposite me, her movements stiff and robotic. Mark, she whispered, her voice barely audible. What are you doing here? I thought you were. I have my work dinner. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't yell. I simply slid my phone across the polished wood of the table. The screen lit up, displaying my final message thread with Serafina. Her eyes darted from the screen to my face, the color draining completely from her cheeks. I leaned forward and spoke, my voice low and steady, a chilling counterpoint to the storm raging inside me. "Happy anniversary, Serafina," I said. "I believe you were expecting me." It was then that Chloe chose to make her move. She and her parents stood up and walked toward our table, beaming. "Surprise," her mother chirped, completely oblivious. "Chloe told us where you'd be. We wanted to celebrate with you. Sarah, honey, you look wonderful, but you look like you've seen a ghost." Sarah's eyes darted frantically from me to her parents and back again, her mind racing for an escape that didn't exist. She was trapped, illuminated in a spotlight of her own making. The lies she had told me, her sister, her parents, they were all converging in this one perfect, catastrophic moment. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. There was nothing to say. The game was over. It was checkmate. Part 10: The Ashes and the Dawn. The aftermath was not a fiery explosion, but the deafening silence of a bomb crater. Sarah's parents, after a confused and painful explanation from a stone-faced Chloe, looked at their daughter with expressions of profound disappointment. There were no dramatic accusations, just a quiet, heartbreaking retreat from the restaurant and from the image they had held of her. The divorce was swift and brutal. I had the screenshots, the credit card statements, the irrefutable proof. I wasn't vindictive, but I was firm. I wanted what was fair. Our lawyer, a stoic woman with no time for dramatics, called it an open and shut case of marital fault. I got the house. The kids, now old enough to understand, were horrified by their mother's deception and sided with me, their relationships with her strained to the breaking point. The vengeful part of me felt a cold, hard satisfaction. The justice was clean, methodical, and absolute, but revenge is a dish best served cold, and it leaves a cold feeling in your stomach long after you're done. Once the legal battles were over and the dust settled, I found myself alone in the big, quiet house, a king in a kingdom of ashes. The victory felt hollow. I had won the war, but what had I really gained? That's when the real work began, the path to self-discovery. I started saying yes to things I had put off for years. I took that trip to Napa, but I went with Dave, my Bulina China shop friend. We drank too much wine and talked about everything and nothing. I started working out, not at a trendy boutique gym, but in my own garage, hitting a heavy bag until my knuckles were raw and my mind was clear. I reconnected with the man I was before I became Mark, Sarah's husband. I rediscovered my own wants, my own ambitions. I realized that for years I had also been playing a role, the noble provider, the complacent husband. Her betrayal in a strange and painful way had set me free. Months later, I agreed to meet Sarah for one final conversation. We met at a neutral coffee shop, the same one where I had confessed everything to Chloe. She looked older, tired. The vibrant, laughing Serafina was gone, replaced by a woman who looked humbled and broken. She didn't make excuses. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just talked, her voice low and steady. She spoke of feeling invisible, of hitting middle age and panicking that her life was over. The app, she explained, was an escape, a fantasy where she could be someone else, someone desired and exciting. "It wasn't about you, not really," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "It was about me, about my own emptiness, and I destroyed everything because I was too much of a coward to tell you how lost I felt. It didn't fix anything. It didn't erase the lies or the pain, but it did offer a sliver of understanding. She wasn't a monster, she was just a flawed, selfish person who had made a catastrophic mistake." Hearing her broken confession didn't spark a desire for reconciliation, but it did extinguish the last embers of my rage, leaving behind only a sad, quiet sense of closure. I walked out of that coffee shop and didn't look back. The future was an unwritten page. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. The saga of my wife's betrayal was over. I had sought revenge and found it, but the real victory wasn't in her downfall. It was in my own resurrection. I had survived the fire, and in the dawn of my new life, I was finally ready to walk out of the ashes, not bitter but free. If this story hit home, like and subscribe for more gripping tales of love and betrayal. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you forgive or seek revenge? Was Mark's plan justified, or did he go too far? Your perspective matters. And be sure to check out the next video, popping up now for another twist-filled saga you won't want to miss.